Fernando Torres is standing in front of a villa today, not a stadium. Behind glass and light stone lies La Finca, a place without applause, without noise. Everything here feels controlled, quiet, almost detached. But how did a boy who once set all of Europe in motion reach this peaceful point in his life? The answer begins long before the fame. Fernando Jose Torres Sanz was born on March 20th, 1984, in Fuenlabrada, far from large stadiums and cameras. Like many children, he started on small pitches, with simple goals and a ball that rarely left his feet. Early on, something special became apparent. At 5 years old, he played in Parquet 84, light-footed, attentive, always moving. Adults quickly noticed that this boy was different. At 7, he moved to an indoor soccer team, Marios Holanda. There, he took off his goalkeeper gloves and discovered something that would never let him go: scoring goals. At 10, the next step was Rio 13. The season was extraordinary. 55 goals, game after game, almost effortlessly. Shortly after came the surprising invitation for a trial with Atletico Madrid. At 11, he secured a spot in the youth academy. From that moment on, they called him El Niño, a slender boy full of energy who played with a mix of joy and courage. At just 17, he debuted for Atletico Madrid's first team. Still young, still inexperienced, but ready to bear responsibility. Was this early rise a gift, or already the beginning of a heavy burden? Fernando Torres was still a teenager when he became the face of Atletico Madrid. At 17, he was suddenly at the center of a big club, searching for direction. His body was still slender, his face youthful, but on the pitch, he played with a maturity rarely seen in someone his age. Season after season, he carried more responsibility, not just as a striker, but as a symbol of a struggling Atletico. In 6 seasons, Torres scored 75 league goals, numbers that meant more than mere statistics. Each goal was a sign of hope for a club that wanted to reinvent itself. Fans saw him not just as a goal scorer, but as a leader, even though he himself was still learning to cope with pressure. The nickname El Niño stuck, but expectations grew faster than he did. Atletico thrived on his energy, his pace, his determination. But the greater his influence became, the heavier the responsibility weighed on his shoulders. The boy who once played carefree now had to deliver, week after week. Was this early rise the foundation for his greatness, or did it take away some of the lightness that once defined him? In 2007, Fernando Torres left Spain and moved to Liverpool FC. In England, the most explosive version of his talent emerged. Fast, direct, uncompromising in front of goal. The Premier League discovered a striker who could decide games single-handedly. Torres became the fastest player in the club's history to reach 50 league goals. At Anfield Road, he was not just successful, he was feared. But with fame, pressure also grew. In 2011, a spectacular transfer to Chelsea FC followed for a record sum of around £50 million. Expectations were enormous. Goals became fewer, criticism grew louder. Nevertheless, titles came: FA Cup, Champions League, Europa League. He won everything possible at club level, even if his personal brilliance faded. A brief stay at AC Milan followed, before fate led him back to where it all began. The return to Atletico Madrid felt like closing a circle. He won the Europa League once more before his journey took him to Japan. There, at Sagan Tosu, he ended his career in 2019. But was this farewell truly the end, or just the beginning of a new chapter? With the Spanish national team, Fernando Torres reached the pinnacle of his career. Since his debut in 2003, he was part of a generation that changed Spain forever. The moment that defined everything came in 2008. In the European Championship final, Torres scored the decisive goal. A run, a finish, an entire country in a state of euphoria. The 2010 World Cup title, and another European Championship victory in 2012 followed. Torres became the third best scorer for the Spanish national team. However, every great story eventually reaches its end. After returning to Atletico Madrid and winning the Europa League, his last path led him to Japan, to Sagan Tosu. Far from the European spotlight, he ended his career there in 2019. No grand spectacle, just a quiet farewell. Was it precisely this calm he had been searching for all these years? After the end of his career, Fernando Torres consciously retreated. In La Finca, Madrid's most exclusive residential area, he found the space he had missed for years. As soon as you enter, the city's noise disappears. What remains is silence, clear and controlled. The villa is modern, low-built, and filled with light. Large glass surfaces open the house to the garden, and light stone walls enhance the feeling of calm. With generous space and clear architecture, everything seems reduced, almost meditative. No pomp, no excess. It is a home for someone seeking distance and needing order. Is this silence the result of a long journey full of pressure and expectations? Inside, this feeling continues. The living area is open, warm, and subtly designed. Large windows connect indoor and outdoor spaces. Nothing distracts. Nothing demands attention. The kitchen is functional and serene, a place for simple routines rather than grand moments. Upstairs, the house becomes more private. Bedrooms overlook the garden and pool, with a master suite as a personal retreat. Below, rooms for relaxation and balance. Cinema, fitness, spa, all embedded in an atmosphere of restraint. This house doesn't tell a story of wealth, but of control and inner balance. Has Fernando Torres finally found the pace here that his earlier life denied him? Directly behind the villa begins another quiet part of his story, the garage. It tells of a life's transformation without many words. The first car that reflected his rapid rise was an Aston Martin DB9. Elegant, powerful, striking. It was the car of a young striker who loved speed, on the field and on the road. After games in Liverpool, he drove home in it, windows down, engine loud, a brief escape from the pressure of everyday life. Over the years, his choices changed. For everyday life in Madrid, Torres chose a much more inconspicuous vehicle. Practical, quiet, functional. A car that didn't stand out and didn't put him back in the spotlight. Friends later said that's precisely what he appreciated about it. Normalcy, anonymity. Today, a different vehicle suits his life. The Volkswagen multivan. Spacious, understated, family-oriented. It represents a man who takes his children to school in the morning and plans weekend trips. From performance to comfort, from speed to tranquility. Doesn't this development in his garage perfectly reflect the inner transformation Fernando Torres has undergone? Fernando Torres built a fortune of approximately $90 million during his career. Large contracts and international sponsors characterized this phase. The decisive moment came in 2011 with his move to Chelsea, a long-term contract that provided him with financial security even as his athletic performance fluctuated. Endorsements with global brands like Adidas and Pepsi brought in additional millions. Away from the spotlight, Torres invested calmly and thoughtfully, primarily in real estate in Madrid and on the Spanish coast. Not flashy luxury projects, but stable assets with long-term potential. Today, his income comes from several smaller but reliable sources: coaching work, football-related projects, participations. Less spectacular than before, but fitting for his current life. Is financial peace ultimately more valuable than any big contract? Away from contracts and titles, Fernando Torres lives a quiet life today. Time with his family, simple routines, involvement in children's and social projects. No grand gestures, no urge for attention, just consistency and inner peace. Perhaps that is the greatest victory of his career. What truly matters in the end, when the applause fades. If you enjoyed this story, Give the video a like and subscribe to the channel for more behind-the-scenes insights into great careers.